السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طبعا أعتقد أنه الممثل بلغكم بأنه المحاضرة المفروض تكون في وقتها، يعني الساعة 1:30 يوم غد، والكويز يكون بعد المحاضرة مباشرة، يعني الكويز الساعة 2:30. لكن 100% راح تعترضون، راح تقولون أنه المحاضرة 1:30 والكويز 2:30، ما لحقنا ندرس، ما لحقنا نقرأ، ما لحقنا نراجع المحاضرة. فلذلك سجلت المحاضرة لكم، وهسه تقدرون تطلعون على المحاضرة وتدرسونها، وعندكم وقت كافي من الآن إلى موعد الكويز، يعني من الآن إلى يوم غد الساعة 2:30 اللي هو موعد الكويز مالتكم. تقدرون تدرسون هذه المحاضرة أو تطلعون عليها أو تسووا لها ريفيو بعد كيفكم. أوكي، المحاضرة مالتنا هي اليوم المحاضرة الثالثة لكتشر 3. مثل ما تعودنا نبدي دائما بالسيلبس، وأيضا مثل باقي المحاضرات نقسمها إلى أقسام اللي هي reading, key language, writing and vocabulary development. In this lecture we are going to talk about skimming, which is reading a text quickly for general meaning. For the key language, we are going to talk about prepositions of time, which are in, at and on. For the writing section, we are going to discuss writing sentences with a subject, a verb, and an object, which are simple sentences. Okay, so we are going to discuss writing simple sentences. And for writing also, checking your writing, checking for spelling mistakes. If you remember, we talked about checking your writing 1, and now we are going to talk about checking your writing 2. Okay, for vocabulary development, how to record your vocabulary, which is recording verb, noun, collocations, and we are going to know what collocations means. Okay, so let's start with the reading as always. So in our reading part, we are going to deal with skimming. So what is skimming? As I told you earlier in our previous lectures, we are going to focus on some techniques that helps you read quickly. Okay, so what is skimming? Skimming is reading a text quickly to find general information. For example, who the text is about. Okay, to find general information, to find the main idea. Okay, what is called the gist. Sometimes they call it the gist. Okay, how do you do skimming? You read the titles, you read the subtitles, you look at the photos or the pictures or the illustrations. If the text has some pictures or photos, you look at those. Okay, you don't read words one by one. You don't read word by word. That's called extensive reading. No, you just let your eye goes on the surface of the text. You just look at it. Okay, just to know what is it. What is this text? Is it about some people? Is it about some plants, some animals? Okay, is this text about a country, like examples before when we talked about Spain, Algeria? Okay, we talked about different countries, Canada. So just to know the main idea quickly, just to get the informations that we need as quickly as possible. So let's take this text as example. This text is from a university website. Well, how do we know it's from a university website? Because it says University of South London. Let me do this one first. Okay, University of South London here. Okay, it has 4 tabs. One of them is active, which is this one. It says student life. So obviously this is about the students at the University of South London. Okay, and as you can see in the subtitles, it says Conrad Delzer, Malika Fahri, and Yasmin Hamdi, and Martino Basti. So obviously this text is talking about those students, okay? And just by looking at them, looking at the paragraphs, just look at the paragraphs, look just for the keywords, some important numbers, like Conrad is 19, Yasmin and Malika, they study medicine, okay? Martino studies math, okay? So how about Conrad? What does he study? Okay, just look at it. It's over there. He is a chemistry student, so he study chemistry. Okay, just like that, without without reading everything. Okay, we get the informations that we need. Okay, now this text doesn't have photos or illustrations. Okay, but even if we get the photos, we can correlate between the text and the photos. As example, obviously these are Yasmin and Malika. Which one is Yasmin, which one is Malika, we don't know. But we do know that they are two medicine students. They study medicine at the University of South London, right? Yep, Malika Fahri and Yasmin Hamdi. Okay, this one is doing a chemical reaction. Obviously, I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something related to chemistry. Maybe. Okay, so who is this guy? This guy is Conrad, right? Because we said Conrad studied chemistry. Conrad Delzer. And this one is the last one, which is Martino Basti. Okay, so just like that, skimming is reading quickly, but not reading word by word. You will not read everything. You just look for the title, the subtitles, if there are subtitles, the photos, the pictures, if there are photos and pictures, and you focus on the main idea, on the general subject of the text. Okay, like this text is about people. Previous text that we saw in our previous lectures were about different countries. Okay, that is what we mean by skimming, and that is helpful for you to decide maybe if you want to read this text or not. Like you have exam, and you have a lot of lectures. So some of these lectures, like the midterm exam, not everything is included in your midterm exam. Some lectures are not included in your midterm. So how to decide which one that you are going to read and which one not? Just read their titles, read the titles of the lectures, and you will know which one are required from your midterm exam. Okay, I hope you got the idea from skimming it, because skimming is really helpful to you, not only before the exams but even during exams. And we are going to talk about scanning, which is much more helpful during the exams, more than skimming. But we are going to talk about scanning in the next lecture next week, hopefully. All right, so let's look at those pictures. Just by looking at them, we suspect that those are two students, and these are students, and this one is a lecturer, maybe a university lecturer, a doctor or something. So just by looking at them, we know that they are in a classroom. Okay, now if you want, you can look at the text, like this text, and we can correlate between the text and the photos. So these are the photos and this is the text. Just by reading the title, Dr. Sudhir Mahu, we know that this text is talking about what? It's talking about picture B, not A, but B. Okay. So reading that, you can then, after just looking at it, after that, you can know the, you can decide if you want to go further, read it word by word or not. Okay, let's say you have some questions about this text. That means you need to read it word by word. Okay, so now you go and read it. Dr. Swadir Mahoub is a lecturer in business studies. He gives lectures at 9 on Mondays and 11:30 on Thursdays. He works in his office in the afternoons. He does research. He uses his computer and he reads books. He has seminars on Friday mornings. At the end, he plays with his children and he goes to football matches. After you finish reading, then you can go and answer some questions if you have questions about this text. But let's say this text is not important to you, so just by reading the title you decide, well, I don't need to read it, so you go on without spending more time on this text. But as we said, let's say you have some question about the text, so let's answer those questions. Are these sentences true or false? Okay, so sentence number one: Dr. Mahoub gives lectures on Monday, which is true, right? According to the text, he gives lectures on Mondays. He works in the library in the afternoons. Well, according to the text, that is false, right? On Fridays mornings, he does research. That is also false. Well, we know false because it is mentioned in the in the text. The weekend, he goes to football matches, which is correct or true, right? So again, you skim the text first, you read the titles, the subtitles, you look for important informations, then you decide if you need to read the text further or you just move on without reading word by word. And that is the importance of skimming. Okay, now the key language, let's talk about time. All of you know time, you know how to express time, but let's go and review the prepositions that people use with time. Okay, you can see in these photos, these are the pictures or photos of some clocks, and that shows you the time. This one is 2:45, 3:15, 10:30, and 4 o'clock. Okay, that's easy, right? So how do we express time and what prepositions that we use with time? Okay, so some rules. First, prepositions of time. We use different prepositions of time: in, at, and on, with different time expressions. We use in with part of the day, like he watches television in the evenings. At a time, at the weekend. Okay, at a time, like at 8:30, as you can see here. At 8:30, or at the weekend. At the weekend, he gets up at 8:30. So that's where we use at. All right. We use on a day, or on a day and a part of the day. Like on Mondays, he teaches, or on Monday mornings, he gives a lecture. Okay, that's when we use in, at, and on. We also use in for long time, like in spring, in summer, in winter, for long periods of time. In centuries, like in the 19th century or in the 15th century. Also with years, in 19 1999. Okay, or when we say in 2021, we say in 2021. Okay, so we use in with long periods of time, and we use in part of the day. Okay, let's read this text. On Saturdays, Martino gets up at 8. He goes to the gym in the mornings, and in the afternoons he watches TV. He likes sports programs. He visits his friends in the evenings. He doesn't work at the weekend. Okay, this is the text. So let's see what time prepositions that we can identify here. Well, the first one is there, which is on. We have at 8, at a time, at 8. Okay, he goes to the gym in the mornings, as we said, in a part of the day, in the morning, and in the afternoons, he watches TV. In and the afternoon is a part of the day. He likes sports programs. He visits his friends in the evenings. As again, in plus part of the day. He doesn't work at the weekend. Okay, so with a weekend, we use at. Okay, but with longer periods of time, we use in. So we use in, again, we use in with part of the day and with long periods of time. We use at either at a specific time, like at 8, or at the weekend. Okay, and we use on days, like on Saturdays, and on day plus part of the day, like on Saturday mornings. Okay, sometimes when we don't use those prepositions, we don't need in or at or on. We don't use them. Okay, when does that happen? When there is some time expression like next or last. Like when we say next Monday, we don't say in next Monday or at next Monday or on next Monday. No, we just say next Monday. We don't use some prepositions. Also, when we use last, we don't use like last evening or last night. Like someone had a bad dream last night. We don't say in last night. Okay, we just say last night. So when we have those time expressions, we don't need time prepositions. Okay. All right. Let's see what we are going to use here. Conrad gets up at 8:30 on Sundays. He doesn't have lectures on Monday mornings. At the weekend, Malika and Yasmin go on the internet. In the afternoons, the students have lectures. Yasmin works in the library on Wednesdays. Okay, that's how we use time expressions. Prepositions of time. These are called prepositions of time. But if we have a time expression, like as I said, like next, last, we don't need those time expressions. Okay, let's move on to writing. In writing, as we said, we are going to talk about a simple sentence. So a simple sentence has a subject, a verb, and an object, just like that. A sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. So, as example, Martino studies maths. So, Martino is the subject, studies is the verb, and math is the object. And as we can see, it starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop or a dot, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you. Okay, so that's a simple sentence. Let's look at these simple sentences and let's identify which is which. Malika and Yasmin study medicine. So Malika and Yasmin, all of this is called the subject. These are subjects, Malika and Yasmin. Study is the verb and medicine is the object. And of course, it starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. Okay. They use a computer. They is the subject here. Use a verb and a computer is the object, a computer. It also starts with capital letter and ends with full stop. Dr. Mahoob reads books. Dr. Mahoob is the subject. Reads here is the verb and books are the object. All right. Now let's look at these sentences. These are some scrabbled sentences. It has some words, so you just need to rearrange them. Okay, I'm gonna give you the first one, but you have to do the rest. Studies she physics. If we are going to arrange this one, is gonna be she studies physics. She studies physics, right? The second one, football plays he. The third one, do their homework they. Fourth one, his computer he uses. And the last one is she coffee drinks. As you can see here, I just want to mention something. If we are going to arrange the last one, it's going to be she drinks coffee. And if you notice, we don't have or we don't use the articles a or an. So we don't say she drinks a coffee and we don't say she drinks and coffee. We don't say that. We just say she drinks coffee. Why? Because coffee is an uncountable noun. Uncountable. Okay, so we don't use articles. And I've noticed that many of you did this wrong during your last quiz. Like as I said, for uncountable nouns, we don't use a or an. We don't need them. We just say she drinks coffee. We don't say she drinks a coffee. Okay, so you have to look at these uncountable nouns in your future tests or exams or quizzes. Okay, now let's arrange these verbs in their corresponding positions or places or blanks in this text. Okay, this is about a nurse or a nursing student. She said, I study nursing. I blank at 7 in the morning and I blank breakfast. So we have get up, go on, go to, have, use, watch, work. Obviously it is I get up. Let me do this. So I get up at 7. You see at 7 in the morning, in the morning, and I have breakfast. All right. These are simple sentences. I blank the university at 8. So I go to the university at 8. I have lectures in the mornings. In the mornings. I have lunch in the cafeteria at 12. Look at the time expression. At 12. In the afternoons, again, in the plus part of the day, in the afternoons. I blank in the lab. So what do we have left here? I go on, I use, I watch, I work. I work in the lab. In the evenings, I work in the library. So sometimes you can keep going and maybe you could find a hint. Like if you don't know work comes here, you can look at this one. I work in the library. So this one is similar. I work in the lab. I work in the library. I blank the computers. I use the computers. I go home at 8, again, at, and have dinner. I watch television and I go on the internet. And you have to memorize some of these expressions. Like when they talk about the internet, they said, go on. Okay, they didn't say like, I use the internet, I go on the internet. These are some English expressions that you have to memorize. There is no rules for them. So you have to just memorize them. Okay, as you can see here, get up is blank number 1. 2 is have. For 3, we have go to. 4, we have work, as we said. I work in the lab. 5, I use the computer. 6, I watch television. And 7, I go on the internet, which is the last one. All right. We talked about writing simple sentences. So now checking your writing. Number 2, check your writing for spelling mistakes. This is important, not only if you write on paper. Also, if you write if you are using a computer or you are using a phone, you have to check for your writing. So check your writing for spelling mistakes. Like this one, it says homework. It is wrong. What's missing? It's missing the letter E here, as you can see in the correct spelling. If you use a computer, use the spell check tool. Check or choose English as the language and look for words that are underlined in color. So if you are using like a Microsoft Word or Google Docs and you start writing, it's going to give you some words are underlined in like red color. That means there is a spelling mistakes here. If you write homework, as in this example, the word program will put a red underline or red color line under the word that tell you it is wrong. Okay, so check for these. Okay, let's correct some of these spelling mistakes. I go to work on Wednesdays. So what is wrong with this one? There is an E extra here. So in the previous example, you saw that we have one E missing. But in this example, we have one E extra, Wednesdays. He watches television in the evenings. So what is missing from this one? Evenings, another E is missing. And these things happen. Sometimes you mess up with E, I, some letters, especially silent, the one that are silent, you miss them when you write. So it's better after you write anything, you go and check it again. Okay, next example, Malika works in the library. Okay, we have the letter R and A. So we have two letters missing here. All right, she has lunch in the cafeteria. So how do we write cafeteria correctly? This is cafeteria. Instead of I, we use E. So instead of this I, T-I-R, we use T-E-R. That's the right way to write cafeteria. And I mentioned this one in our first lecture, in our very first lecture. I said when you write the verb and you add the third person S, you have to check, because sometimes we add ES, not just S, like in this one. Martino goes. Goes is G-O-E-S. Okay, that's how we write goes. These are some examples, and of course, you always have to check and double check for punctuation mistakes, for spelling mistakes, and so on. All right. Now, vocabulary development. In this one, as we said, we are going to talk about some verb-noun collocations. So what are collocations? Collocations are words that go together. Okay, so some verbs and nouns go together. For example, watch TV, study medicine. Okay, we don't say watch medicine or study TV, right? When you record vocabulary, make a note of words that go together or words collocations. Okay, and again, there is no rules for these collocations. So the only way to study these is to memorize them. Okay, to write them in your notebook. And again, when we say record vocabulary, that doesn't mean just voice record, audio record. No, writing them on paper or in your computer, that's also called record vocabulary. Okay, so you have to make notes of those words that go together. Okay, this photo shows some people doing some activities. So let's say this guy here is eating something. Let's say he's having lunch, because your lecture is at 1:30, so this one is at lunchtime. So what do we say? We say have lunch. Like in this example, have lunch, right? Again, we don't say have a lunch. We say have lunch, because lunch is an uncountable noun. Right, this one is reading a book. So read a book. Read a book. This guy use a computer. Use a computer. And finally, this one is giving a lecture. So gives a lecture. So I hope you understand now what do we mean by words that goes together, or verb noun collocations. Verb, which is give a lecture, which is a noun. Use, a verb. A computer, a noun. Okay, that's what we mean by verb noun collocations. All right, now let's read these sentences and see which verb goes with the rest of the sentence. Okay, example number one, Tanya does or makes her homework in the afternoons. Obviously, it's about Tanya answering or doing her homework. So Tanya does her homework in the afternoons. The students have or do some research in the library in the mornings. So what the students do some research in the library in the morning. Okay, some people will say, well, the student have some research. Well, they have some research. That doesn't mean they are doing it, but the word do is the correct one here. Dr. Miners makes or gives a seminar at 2. Well, seminar is just like lectures. So Dr. Miners gives a seminar at 2. And I'm going to say it again. There is no rule that governs collocations. The only way to study collocations is to make notes about them and memorize them. Jan reads or gives articles on his computer. You don't give an article on your computer. You read articles on your computer. Okay? Mario does or has dinner at 7. Well, Mario has dinner at 7. Lara visits or goes friends at weekends. Well, Lara visits friends at weekends. If you want to use goes, you have to say Lara goes to her friends at weekends. So goes to, not just goes to, and not friends, her friends. Okay? So if you have just friends, you say Lara visits friends at weekends. And that's it for our lecture. And again, as I said, this is your third lecture, and your third quiz will be tomorrow at 2:30 for 15 minutes. Bye-bye.